we dive into authentic conversations about ourselves and our community, exploring topics that uplift and inspire us. From personal growth to social change. So grab your teacup and get ready to join the conversation.
Craft, Kelly, so glad to have you, especially since we can't see what's going on inside. But what is the latest with Carrie Morgan testifying?
Julia and Ted. So everyone's just making their way back inside the New York City courthouse after a very short lunch break. So people are just making their way in. As soon as court resumes, the direct examination of Carrie Morgan will continue. Carrie Morgan, the former friend of Cassie Ventura, who said that once Sean Diddy Combs assaulted her, their friendship stopped. So what did she say about that particular assault? She said that she was at her house, that Combs had come over demanding that she tell him who Cassie was cheating on him with. He became angry, grabbed her around the neck, and then ended up hitting her with a wooden hanger. Shortly after that, this was about a month after that, her and Cassie met up at a pizzeria. And Cassie, according to her testimony, told her that you're overblowing this because she now had hired an attorney. Carrie Morgan had hired an attorney. Cassie said, you're exaggerating this. She then had her friend sign a non-disclosure agreement and said Sean Combs will be giving you $30,000. So that's some of the testimony that was taking place before the lunch break took place. Now we're making our way back in. We do have some other testimony we can put up for you on the screen. So we're bringing it to you in full screen form because, of course, no cameras are in the courtroom. But she did testify that she had encouraged Ventura to call police. This was after that 2016 hotel altercation at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. After the assault, Combs arrived at Ventura's apartment yelling and banging on the door with a hammer. She said, I don't think she cared that he could come in there and kill her. So it's been some really tough testimony to listen to as Carrie has been on the stand recounting these events. She also testified that Combs assaulted her in 2018. So this is the incident I'm talking about with the hanger. He came up behind me, she said. He choked me, then boomeranged a wooden hanger at my head, had finger marks on my neck. And then, as I mentioned, she received a $30,000 check, some money from Combs, and then signed that non-disclosure agreement. So again, direct examination will continue with Carrie Morgan on the stand as soon as testimony gets back underway. But another situation where we're hearing testimony talking about these alleged incidents of abuse that people had witnessed. And remember, Carrie Morgan, when she first got on the stand, talking about how she didn't even want to be here, but she's been subpoenaed, so she has to testify. But she's glad to be away from these people and their problems.
Wow. Sounds like it's powerful testimony there inside.
Yeah, riveting. Kelly Craft, thank you. Kelly will be with us every hour, on the hour, to give us these updates from court. And as Kelly said, they're just returning from the lunch break with more direct. Let's bring in our guest for the hour from San Francisco, trial attorney Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, you're in Florida, Sarasota, Florida. Yeah, sorry. What do you think of this building the monster that the federal government is doing? I mean, the images of him at the freakouts, the images we saw of him, Sean Combs, dragging Cassie by the elevators, and now this story of him chasing her down at an apartment with a hammer, hammering the door of an apartment. It is right out of a horror film on some levels. What's your take on how the government is doing, keeping in mind this is a racketeering human trafficking case, not an assault case?
Well, with regard to the prosecution with the human trafficking and RICO case, I'm not sure they're doing such, but they are definitely presenting that systematic violence, and that everybody that was in his circle of, being was under this intense threat that appears, based on this testimony, to be continual.
You know what surprises me, Alexis, when I'm listening to Kelly recount what's happening inside the courtroom, and Carrie Morgan was the person who was there with Cassie Ventura after that 2016 video, which so many people think this entire trial is about, the 2016 hotel elevator bank video, and that she urged Cassie to call police at that time, but she didn't want to draw any attention to it. She didn't want the authorities involved or to know who it was. I believe there actually was a 911 call made, but no names were given and no report taken. This could have changed everything, not just for justice for Cassie, but also Sean Diddy Combs may not be facing a RICO trafficking case if this had been dealt with in 2016. Your thoughts on that?
Well, based on the testimony that we've heard, because it is all circulating around that video, but I'm assuming that the prosecution is going to present more information and evidence other than just that video, or they're going to be in real trouble with trying to get a conviction for the charges that he's on trial for. But yeah, I think that the problem was everybody was afraid that he was going to make that go away, which he kind of sort of did. He made the video go away.
Absolutely. It was leaked, but it was after the statute of limitations in California had elapsed, so he doesn't face any repercussions from a criminal standpoint because of that video. But he was successful in keeping it under wraps, at least for a while. And of course, now it's a big part of the federal government's case.
Okay, so we're wrapping up. Okay, yeah. Week 1, we had Carrie come up and testify, y'all. That was crazy. So let's go back and read this.
Then boomeranged a wooden hanger.
Okay, trial witness Carrie Morgan testified Combs assaulted her in 2018. He came up behind me, she says, and choked me, then boomeranged a wooden hanger at my head. I had finger marks on my neck. Oh my God. She says that she received $30,000 from him and she signed an NDA. Hasn't spoken to Cassie since 2018. So Cassie jeopardized, she sabotaged her friendship with Carrie for Diddy. Along with Carrie telling her, leave, like, let's get out of here. Let's not be, subjected to this. And Cassie turned it down. She walked away. She walked back to Diddy, and that's where she remained until she finally left in 2020, 1920? Oh my. Let's get a little bit more understanding of what Carrie testified in the Diddy trial, y'all. Oh. Well, let's jump over to Danny D. Kane. Hold on. As y'all know, Danny D. Kane was one of the girl groups that Diddy orchestrated. Okay.
How many times have you
in the band, the Diddy, Dirty Diddy shit? And Dawn Richardson was produced out of that. Okay. She was a girl singer in the Danny D. Kane group.
Milner, who is our in-court reporter for the Sean Diddy Combs criminal trial. Elizabeth, so good to see you. You were in court today, week 2. Continuation of Dawn Richard's testimony. She left the stand, Carrie Morgan on the stand. Before we get to the substance of what they had to say, what is the vibe like in court today? How does Sean Combs appear? Who's there? Paint the picture for us, because unfortunately, as we know, there are no cameras There are no audio recordings allowed in that courtroom. What did you see and what did you hear?
Yeah, well, the tone as far as this morning goes, a lot of people were kind of anticipating what would the rest of Don Richard's testimony look like, and especially more so, how would the cross-examination and how would Diddy's defense attorneys kind of be able to credibility. As far as just everyone inside the courtroom today, it doesn't look like there was that big kind of present for the defendant side that we've seen last week, especially when we came to day one and even day two of testimony, in that we didn't see any of Diddy's children inside that courtroom, which I think is a little big and a little not big at the same time. We saw images over this weekend that the twins were in during prom season. They were in their prom dresses and that sort. Not 100% sure where the sons are in this kind of picture, as far as are they on the West Coast again, because the twins are about to graduate. So it's unclear why the family presence wasn't so big as it has been for day one and day two. As far as Diddy himself, though, it seems like that didn't necessarily faze him that much. I assume that he, looks forward to seeing his family inside that courtroom, but maybe understanding that they had other obligations. He didn't seem too bothered by that or anything like that. So as far as him being inside that courtroom, it was still the same old Diddy that we've seen, kind of in the same old outfit that we've seen him in as well too. He was wearing a tan sweater, he had a white undershirt, he had khakis on. When he comes into the courtroom, he hugs his attorneys, he chats with them, all those types of things. And so a lot of people were just anticipating what would it look like once Dawn Richard got back on the stand. And let me tell you something, Jesse, when I saw her on the stand today, and even on Friday as well too, she appeared like she just didn't want to be there. You could tell that she was very uncomfortable, especially talking about her recollection of her time that she had worked with Diddy, her time after working with Diddy, especially during the cross-examination part. I thought that maybe she would get a little emotional because she just appeared maybe a little nervous, maybe a little intimidated, not necessarily sure, but she was very soft-spoken. While she was on that stand today answering some of the questions. A lot of those questions obviously had to do with the egg frying incident. It had to do with why Dawn Richard even continued working with Diddy even afterwards, or even wanting to work with Diddy afterwards. And so a lot of the anticipation, or just the overall tone inside that courtroom, especially when it came to that cross-examination, it was kind of, it was a little rough to watch. It was a little like a lot of people, especially us in the gallery, in the press, were just kind of like, wow, this is a little brutal. And they kind of hit the points that they wanted to hit while them being defense attorneys. And so I think that the prosecution really kind of had to tighten everything up as far as, trying to get maybe back in the jury's good graces after kind of seeing that cross-examination go and all those holes that were into her testimony. And so that was just the overall essence and tone of today's, especially this morning before Carrie Morgan got on the witness stand.
To go by, because I know it's so loud. So this, Elizabeth, how is the jury responding to Dawn Richard's testimony, and what were some of the highlights? I mentioned it briefly before you came on air, kind of summarized some of the points, but what were some of the points that came out today from her testimony, both on direct and cross-examination, and how was the jury responding to her testimony? Because let's not forget, she is a corroborating witness for Cassandra Ventura Fine. She helped to articulate some of the finer elements of racketeering. What were some of the highlights from her testimony, both on direct and cross, and how was the jury responding?
Well, absolutely. As far as being under direct, it was really just kind of ironing out the details as far as what happened with this whole egg skillet incident, that being the incident that happened in 2009, according to Dawn Richard, where essentially Cassie was cooking Diddy breakfast. Diddy comes downstairs, gets upset about
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay dipping.
AI.
Thanks for watching. Remember to show your support by liking, subscribing, and sharing. It's a blessing. Keep your teacups filled and ready for my next upload. Until then, stay inspired and remember, always stay shifted.